Rejected, throwing away, affected. I don't know what to say. Ejected, cast out to the sea, disconnected. They didn't want me.
Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Nicksmissal III. I am Patricia, and I'm here with MikeJEHMSZ.
I'm in here.
And we have our special guest, we have MikeJEHMSZ. Welcome back, MikeJEHMSZ.
Hello everyone, I'm MikeJEHMSZ, and yes, it's me.
Alright, so in this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the canceled Jimmy Neutron sequel. It's called Jimmy Neutron, The Search for Carl. Back in 2001, when the Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius movie came out, it received over $100 million, and it was nominated for the Oscars alongside with Shrek and Monsters, Inc. But Nickelodeon was able to make a TV series off of it, The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, which also became a bit of a success. They wanted to do a sequel to, the Jimmy Neutron movie called Jimmy Neutron, The Search for Carl. Now, there's not really a lot of information about this movie. I do remember hearing it a few years ago, but the only little bit I know about it was, obviously from the title is that Carl either was kidnapped or he was missing or something, and then probably, the crew had to go find him, and that was pretty much it. Now, this movie would have came out around the early 2000s, but unfortunately, because Nickelodeon wanted to squeeze the whatever life that the Rugrats franchise had, it got pushed off the side because of the Rugrats Go Wild movie. So yeah, two Nickelodeon movies were sacrificed because of the Rugrats Go Wild movie. That was the Hey Arnold movie, which we discussed about in the last episode, and then there's this one. So yeah, unfortunately, not a lot of information to say about it. So, what do you guys think? What do you think a Jimmy Neutron sequel movie would have been like if it would have came out?
I think it would have been more in line with the TV series rather than the movie.
Yeah, I definitely agree. What about you, Mike?
Well, judging by the title, The Search for Carl, it honestly sounds kind of pointless to have. I mean, you had the original movie and you had the TV series, and of course, you also had the Timmy Jimmy Power Hour. Were there three, to my knowledge? There were three?
Yeah, there were three of them.
That seems sufficient. I don't even think another movie was necessary.
Okay, so, unfortunately, this is, again, one of the movies that we know the least amount of. So, how do you think this would have changed in the line of cinema?
Well, it would have probably gotten Nickelodeon back on a creative role, making more movies based off of TV shows, as after the failure of Rugrats Go Wild, they stopped doing it, with the exception of the SpongeBob movie.
Yeah, that is true. It seemed like ever since Rugrats Go Wild came out and it became a massive failure, and then when SpongeBob came out and it made like a whole bunch of money for them again, it seemed like, Nickelodeon hasn't done another movie based off of their Nicktoons in over a decade. So yeah, maybe Jimmy Neutron could have helped continue on that cycle of, hey, let's see if we can continue making movies based off of, our Nicktoons. Who knows? But, just like what Mike said, maybe the movie wasn't really that necessary. I mean, do you think that Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius really deserved an Oscar nomination?
Not really.
It was a good movie, and I was actually kind of surprised to hear it got the Oscar. Though, even though it would have been cool to see it win, I'm not sure if it was even Oscar-worthy to begin with. Don't get me wrong, it was a really great movie.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good movie, but I don't think it's Oscar-worthy. I think the only reason why it was nominated for the Oscars was two things. This was the very first time in which they actually did nominated animated movies for Oscar. The only time in which that did happen, in which an animated movie was nominated for an Oscar, was Beauty and the Beast, which came out in the early 90s, 91 to be precise, and that was the first animated movie that was nominated for, Best Movie. So, I'm going to read off the other animated movies that were released in 2001 that I guess I kind of understand why they didn't get nominated into Oscars. So, there was Recess School's Out, which was also a theatrical movie. Then there was Pokemon 3 the movie, which was the last Pokemon that came out in theaters, or before they either went straight to DVD or they aired on Cartoon Network. Okay, then we have the original Shrek, Atlantis the Lost Empire, which at the time was like a massive bomb in the box office. Yeah, this was a movie that many people just really hated, and it's gotten a bit of a cult following, but there are still some people who don't really see it as like the best Disney movie. I mean, maybe there's still some, but not really a lot. Okay, we have Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, which, when that movie first came out, it was like one of the biggest disasters in animation history. Like, everybody complained about, oh, it's not a Final Fantasy movie because it takes place in outer space and it has nothing to do with the characters and stuff like that, which, you know, for some Final Fantasy fans, they can look past it, because if you just take out the Final Fantasy title and just call it The Spirits Within, it would have been a pretty decent movie. But if you guys know about video games and the company Square, if you know about Square, they invested a whole bunch of money into this movie, hoping it'll become a success. But it just crashed and burned. If it wasn't for them buying NX and releasing Final Fantasy X and Kingdom Hearts, then Square would probably cease to exist today. Okay, next one we have Osmosis Jones, which, oh god, that movie.
It's directed by the Farrelly brothers.
Yeah, by the Farrelly brothers. If Shallow Hal Farrelly brothers, oh god.
And Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. I mean, I know that there are some people who like it because of it's creative, but we already have Inside Out, so go watch that instead.
Ozzy and Drake. So I always used to watch it when it was on.
I never seen it.
I had to watch Osmosis Jones in science class. Sorry to interrupt you. Though I watched it in science class, and let's just say, you can like it if you want. I won't hold that against you. Though to me, it was pretty effing disgusting.
That's pretty much it for like the major animated movies. So I guess I kind of understand why Jimmy Neutron was nominated for an Oscar, because none of the other movies really stuck out as like Oscar worthy. I mean, you only had Shrek and you had Monsters, Inc., and that was pretty much it. Gone off on that tangent. So, the line of Jimmy Neutron, where it was, it's like, you know, Jimmy Neutron, the TV series, it had a few good seasons, and then eventually DNA Productions went out of business in 2007, like shortly after the release of The Ant Bully, and then it was bought off by O Entertainment, and then they would eventually create Planet Sheen. So, do you think that maybe DNA Productions would have still been around if they would have released the second Jimmy Neutron movie, or do you think it would have probably still, taken its course, in which maybe at some point, maybe people would have gotten sick of Jimmy Neutron, and maybe, the same thing would have just probably happened or something?
I think maybe it would have probably mostly stayed the same, or maybe, as I've said earlier, would have encouraged Nick to make more movies based off of TV shows had it been successful. But if it flopped, kiss your chances of any Nicktoon-based movies goodbye. Okay, so maybe it would have continued what the Rugrats Go Wild movie already eventually did, in which, with the exception of SpongeBob, no more, animated movies based off Nicktoons. I don't even think the SpongeBob movie would have been possible had this movie flopped and actually been released. Interesting. All right, how about you, Mike?
Well, I would say that if the Jimmy Neutron sequel were released, maybe it could have kept DNA Productions around a lot longer past the Ant Bully, and maybe would have had Jimmy Neutron run for a few more seasons. Though, like James said earlier, maybe the SpongeBob movie couldn't be possible if the other things happened. Possibly. I mean, let's see. I mean, the Hey Arnold movie came out a year or two prior, so maybe it would have been, maybe Jimmy Neutron would have been like that chance in which it could have either, brought in, it would have, kicked back what, the Hey Arnold movie disappointed a lot of fans, or it would have just continued the downward slump. Regardless about what would have happened, the Rugrats movie would have definitely came out, and it would have definitely been like the massive disappointment that it was. And, who knows about what would have happened with SpongeBob? I mean, maybe the SpongeBob movie wouldn't have happened, or whatever, but yeah, in my personal opinion, with me personally, I'm not a huge Jimmy Neutron fan. The movie came out when I was in high school, so
I didn't really I don't have a huge nostalgic connection with it. So, and I always found the show to be a tad bit overrated because, I mean, I don't know, maybe because I already grew up with Dexter's Lab, and maybe because I saw the appeal of Jimmy Neutron because it was kind of like a next generation Dexter's Lab, but I always found it to be incredibly monotonous in the first season, and then it just slowly gotten interested in the later seasons because they introduced the villains. Maybe for some people, it's been a debate for a long time of whether the Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius really had like a satisfying conclusion. Some people debate on whether the TV movie in which they got all the villains together was the series finale, or the episode Lady Sings the News, in which Jimmy and Cindy have this they start off a news channel and then they kiss at the end and they walk off to the alley. That was the series finale. But regardless, even still to this day, the fans are not pleased by it, and maybe this movie would have either
retained the spirits.
Yeah, retained the spirits. I think that maybe the movie would have retained the spirits of the TV show, and maybe it would have continued the show for a few more seasons. Who knows? Maybe Planet Sheen wouldn't have existed.
Exactly, and that would have been, we would have been better off without that crap. Seriously, I haven't even watched the show as a kid, and already I know that Planet Sheen is nothing like Jimmy Neutron.
Well, it makes sense because John A. Davis, who created Jimmy Neutron, had nothing to do with the show. The company was already defunct in 2007, and then the company was already sold by O Entertainment, and O Entertainment is the company that Bob Odenkirk and Steve Odenkirk have founded, and everybody knows Steve Odenkirk, Mr. Back at the Barnyard guy. Which is interesting because if you remember from the first episode when Sheen travels in Jimmy's rocket, we do see a cameo with Otis and with Pip and all those characters. Maybe DNA Productions would have still been around. Maybe Planet Sheen wouldn't have happened. Maybe the show would have continued on for a few more seasons if the movie would have came out, or maybe it would have been a movie that maybe some people would have felt was inferior to the first one, even though many people say that the TV show was better than the movie. I don't know. But, I think maybe it didn't really matter because there was already a lot of... similar to the Fairly Odd Parents, Jimmy Neutron also had a lot of TV movies. There was... there was the one with Jet Fusion. There was My Big Fat Spy Wedding. There was the Jimmy Timmy Power Hours. Then there was the Legion of Supervillains. So we already had a few TV movies from Jimmy Neutron. So maybe this additional one, I don't think it would have been different from any of the TV series. So maybe it would have been pretty pointless.
Yeah, I actually agree on that.
All right. Well, unfortunately, once again, not really much to say about the movie because there's little to no information about it. So let's just conclude it right here. So Mike, do you have anything to plug or self-promote?
Well, actually, I wanted to sum up what we talked about here from what we talked about. I just said that. But anyway, with the movie and all, I would say that we wouldn't need a Jimmy Neutron sequel movie. The TV series was enough, and while we did have Planet Sheen, which turned out to be a flop with critics and viewers, I would say the Jimmy Neutron series was good as it was, with the original movie and the TV movies along with the series. It was good as it is without the sequel. Anyway, for plugs and promotions, I don't have that much besides there is the next vlog update episode at the end of the month, and sometime I will be doing a new speed draw of Garnet from Steven Universe. Look forward to that.
All right. And that is it for this episode. Tune in next time as we're going to be discussing about a canceled movie series based off of a fantasy book that would have came out, but due to mixed reviews, the movie never came out. So we'll see you next time.
So